Hi, welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to combine the Qualtrics survey with a chat room. This combines two of our most popular templates. One where you're just taking a Qualtrics survey and you're putting it up on Volunteer Science, and the other where you're creating a chat room that can host any number of simultaneous participants. In this case, sometimes you may want to have a group of people fill out a survey together. You want to have some collective decision making going into the decisions that people make. In other cases, you may, as a researcher, want to be able to chat with a participant as they are filling out a survey, or if you're giving them something that's maybe not quite a survey, but maybe a story or a video or something, walking through them and talking through it with them via a chat. So there's some examples of how you might want to use the combination of a Qualtrics survey and chat box. But here, we're here to learn just some of the basics of how to create experiments on volunteer science. So the big takeaway today is really just going to be about how you combine experiments from different templates into one single experiment. So let's get started. I'm going to go to my lab. I'm going to use my test account for this. And I'm going to start by creating a clone of both of the Qualtrics survey and the chat demo. So where's my Qualtrics survey? So I'm going to use this one as my main sort of editing one. So I'm going to call it Qualtrics and chat. So I have my normal Qualtrics survey here. Autofill. Let's see, survey link. I think we have a test link somewhere. Oh, that's okay. I'll leave that as a title. And let's. I don't know if that's a question mark or not. No, it does. Okay, let's see if this just works already. Qualtrics survey should always be this easy to set up in volunteer science. All right. It's a survey within a survey. That's funny. Okay. Some sort of test survey. All right. Bum, bum, bum. All right, there we go. So that's our demo. Back to the team. Okay, so let me do the chat demo. Chat. Copy of chat demo. So you see, this is not the first time I've done this. Okay, so this is the chat demo files. If you were to copy the template yourself or to get it from our GitHub page, this is exactly what you would see. It's 33 lines long. A good chunk of it is actually commented out, so it's not even that long. It consists of one function, initialize chat, called within the initialize function. And the initialize chat is what turns on the machinery. And then down here, line 21 to 33 is the HTML elements. And so there's a sort of a div for the box for the chat room, and then this is the chat conversation, like where the chats from everybody show up. And then this piece is that little box on the bottom where people enter in whatever they want to chat and the button they want to that they use to send it. And what happens is the initialized chat JavaScript here attaches all of the functions that need to happen when you type into this box and press the send button to make sure that everybody receives the chat. So all of that stuff is baked into volunteer science. You don't have to code it yourself. You can just type in initialize chat, and this HTML will work as a chat box. And the commented out code here is just code that you can use as an example to make some of the chat box look a little bit better, because right now it's very bare bones. Okay, so that's it. So let me go ahead and basically what we're going to do today is combine that chat HTML file with the Qualtrics HTML file. So let me go ahead over here, copy of chat demo. Let me open this up in a new tab so I can have both of them. I'm going to do Qualtrics and chat, which I guess I have a couple of them. All right, I've already edited that one, so that one's not the right one. I just did this one. Oh, no, I think that's the one that's edited. No, interesting. Okay, oh, that must be the last month. That must be I don't know why that's there. All right, well, so it is. So this seems to be the straight up straightforward version of the Qualtrics survey. You have the initialize function where you set the survey title, add the listener, where you're listening for messages from Qualtrics, which is exactly what this first function is about. Is when I hear an event, what do I do with it? When I hear a message from Qualtrics, that message says close QSI window, I close everything. If it's a consent, I request consent, and so on. And the last piece here in the initialize function is just the setting up the iframe itself, putting in the right URL, getting the height correct, and then showing it to people. Down here at the bottom is the HTML. So that's where the survey title goes and where the Qualtrics iframe is. So what I want to do today is I want to paste in this chat HTML file here, and I'll paste it down below this, and then put in the little JavaScript function call, and that'll put the chat box under the survey. HTML reads top to bottom, and when I just add in this stuff, under my HTML, it's going to render this iframe on top, and then it's going to render the chat box below that. So I just pasted the chat box in there, and then I'm going to copy this initialize chat function over, and I'm actually going to put that in the initialize function here as well. That way the chat starts whenever the study starts. I don't have to worry about making sure the chat functions are all turned on. I know they get turned on when the study starts. If you wanted to, you could actually run through a whole study, and then at the end have a chat room and not do initialize chat until the very end when somebody clicks that last button and then opens up the chat. You can say, oh, when they click that button, let's call this initialize chat function. Not a big deal either way. So I've updated this. The initialize function, which is the first function that gets called in an experiment, is going to start by starting up the chat box. And then it's going to go through and create the iframe that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and save these updates, and let me show you that it works. Let me double check these variables. We have a real survey here. And I'm actually going to test this as two participants so you can see that I'm actually two separate people chatting. Move that over. There we go. Took a second for the Qualtrics survey to load. All right. So now I have this for whatever reason. I still have no idea what's going on. I don't know what survey I have running here, but there's a Qualtrics survey. Hi, I'm player 1. Oop. And player 2 has received the message. Hi, I'm player 1. I'm player 2. Ta-da! Okay. And then player 1 has received the message from player 2. Just one note: these are separate surveys. So I am, participating in this one random Latin survey, and player 2 is in the same survey but a different copy of it. They're not actually contributing to the same survey. I'll have to think about how you would make that work. How you would have two people contributing to the same survey. And whatever's going on with this Qualtrics example that I have, where you can see like volunteer signs running in the background of it, is causing this quit process to kind of hang up. I want to change the example. Let's use a different survey. And there's no question mark. Let me just quickly see if that one actually works before I do a bunch of other work and then nothing happens. Okay, all right, so that one does a real survey too. Okay, so the problem with that survey is that it's sort of, that study is that it's sort of ugly, and if you're just starting out as a participant, you see the survey, but you may not see the chat box. Or you may want to look at the survey and the chat box, and if they're one on top of the other, you can't see it very well. It's not good user interface design. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to put them side by side. On the left-hand side, we're going to have the Qualtrics survey, and on the right-hand side, we're going to have the chat box. Full disclosure, 95% of the time I spend building studies on volunteer science is internet searching for the right CSS to make the layouts work. And I went ahead and I looked up how this is supposed to work. I don't have it saved. I have it saved in a separate file, but I'm not just copying and pasting from some established script here. I'm trying to write it free, so bear with me. Okay, so the way that this is going to work, let me just back up one second. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to create a divider here where there's going to be one element. And I'm going to call this the survey. And I'll just pause it there for a second. So this is the survey component, a div around that. And there's already a div around the chat, this container fluid div. Let me just, I'll get a new one, it's okay. So I'll start at the top. Div ID equals chat here. Boop. You can call it whatever you want. It's just a way of noting which div it is. And the great thing about giving them IDs is that later on you can point to the div and manipulate it, change the style, show it, or hide it. So I always give my divs IDs. Okay, so let me go ahead and close that here at the bottom. Okay. So now I have the chat is now in its own div, and then the survey is in its own div. And now what I'm going to do, so basically a div like little blocks. And what I'm going to do is have the survey block on the left and the chat container box on the right. And oops, folded it there. To get to the show up in HTML, I need to have a bigger box that says everything within this box is going to be read left to right instead of top to bottom. And that's called a div. That's called a flex box. So ID, I'm just going to call it flex box. That actually could flag box. Let's hope that there's no ID conflicts there. That there's not any CSS in the background that does something cool to flex boxes. Okay, so style. So what I want to do is I want to add the style. Style equals, what is it? It's not layout. Style. I can't remember now what this is called. This is the challenge of free coding. All right, I had it looked up. I'm gonna cheat. Display flex. so style is display flex. Again, there's no magic here. It's all just looking stuff up online. All right, so I'm gonna. So now I have this big flex box where the display is flex. Oh, yeah. And what the flex is going to do is it's going to put this div on the left hand side and this one on the right hand side. And I could still make them stack if I wanted to by changing their widths or doing other things, but I think this should actually work. This should be sufficient for them to run side by side. So I'm going to save it, quit. Let's see what happens. Launch. I'm just going to launch with one person because all I care about now is the layout. So I forgot. So I need to change the width. So they're side by side, but they're now really skinny. And it's completely impossible to read. So let me show you some little bits about how to come in and just do that sort of last 5% of editing on your study. Once you have everything working the way that you want it to, getting it looking right. So I'm going to right click. I don't want to right click it there because there's a bunch of stuff. Objects in there. I want to right click and I'm going to click inspect. It's Control-Shift-I in Chrome. I don't know what it is in Firefox. But I'm going to inspect the source code. And what this does is it will actually open up this web page in the HTML. And I can come in here and I can just edit whatever HTML I want. Which is true of any website. If you ever wanted to go into like an Amazon website and monkey around with their HTML, you totally can do that by doing this exact same thing. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually going to go in here and try to figure out what do I need to change about this HTML file to make this look the way that I want it to. So I didn't give this a good name. Chat container. Ta-da! Okay, chat container. And And then there's Flexbox. There's the big Flexbox, there's that survey, and then there's chat container. So chat container needs to be wide. So I'm going to just double click. Style equals width 50%, because I want to be 50% of the width. There we go. So it's 50%. It looks like the margins really. Oh, because it's this thing. So this is a bootstrap for those of you who are in the know. I'm just going to get rid of that. And then let's see, width of 50, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the survey. I want the survey to be 50% of the page. So style equals width 50%. Enter. Ah, now it is 50% of the width of the screen, of the width of this box. I will note this is not at all mobile friendly. I could make it mobile friendly. It's going to take a little bit more work, and I haven't planned to do that. If you wanted to watch me do a bunch of Google searches, we can go down that rabbit hole. And maybe I'll actually do a separate talk on just like mobile friendly design for volunteer science. But for now, just know this is not mobile friendly, and these would not work nicely once you got them on a phone. So maybe we have to turn it to the side, I think, to really make it work. Anyway, so the survey here is on the 50% on the left, and the Qualtrics, so the chat container is 50% on the right. I'm just going to close this for a second. So now you see, ta-da, there's a chat. So what country do I live in? Which would actually be a cool way to play something like a Carmen Sandiego game. Okay, so as you can see, this survey is kind of not that great because it's a little bit too wide for this window that I've given it. I want to make this window a little bit wider. I should have clicked into that because there's a bunch of junk in the iframe that you folks are not going to care about. So let's try this at 60%. That's still not wide enough, so let's do 70%. Yeah, okay, so now I can see like the edges here, so that's good. So that's 70%. So let me go back over here. So I want to save all of that work. It's not going to save automatically. Let me go back into this Qualtrics and chat. Should be this one. And I'm going to just copy and paste the stuff that I wrote here. And so for this div ID survey, I'm just going to copy style equals 70. Survey. Paste. And then over here on this chat container, I'm going to copy style equals width 50, which I think I should. I could say 30. Oh, and I need to delete this too. Got to delete the bootstrap. Okay, so now I save it. I think that's it. I think that's everything I need to do to get this showing side by side. So now let me go ahead and quit, because I think it is right now. So let's launch it again. Nice. It's a good size. Hey, all right. Now, as I said, I think the last 95% of the time I spend on a study is fixing up the CSS and making it look right. So there's a lot of things that are left to be done. You know, the chat box could be made a little bit better. We need to move it down a little bit, maybe center it on the screen. There's more stuff that I can do to size the Qualitrics to make it, as I said before, mobile friendly. But for now, you know, this is exactly what I wanted. Qualtrics on the left, chat box on the right. So I'm gonna go ahead and quit. Great, done. Now I'm going to send it to my testers or the people in the lab and just have them take a look at it, make sure it works the way that they expect it to work, and then I'm ready to go. So that's how you combine the Qualtrics survey and the chat box into one single study. I appreciate your time, and if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to put the copy of this study code up on GitHub, and I will send a link around to that repository with this video. All right. Thank you so much.